Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, more police hit the streets as Bahamians hit the road despite a 24-hour lockdown. Long lines as hotel workers seek assistance. Plus, a former star prosecution witness charged in court.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. 4 New Providence men with no history of recent travel are the country's latest confirmed coronavirus cases. According to the Ministry of Health, 3 of those men, ages 66, 52, and 51, have been hospitalized, while the 4th case, a 56-year-old man, is in isolation at home. This brings the total number of cases to 64. 11 people have recovered, and 651 people are under quarantine. The number of deaths remains at 9. Well, despite the 24-hour lockdown, the streets of New Providence were busy today as thousands of people hit the road to purchase essential items. They had to stop and explain why they were out of their homes as officers also flooded the streets to conduct road checks. Jillian Gray reports.
There was bumper-to-bumper traffic as motorists traversing the streets of New Providence were stopped by officers asking them where they were going. Many of them said they had no problem answering as they know officers are simply doing their job. Marathon Road, Tonic Williams Darling Highway, Gladstone Road, and other major thoroughfares were all backed up for miles.
This morning.
It's preventative for people abusing the privilege of being out. If we have to do what we have to do, if people won't listen, they'll feel.
I feel it's necessary. It's a good thing they're doing, you know. Police presence is good.
With the roadblock, you don't know what's going on, so the police is doing a good job.
Motorists' reasons for being out varied from going to work to going to the grocery store or other exempted businesses. That list of exempted stores became a bit longer yesterday as the Prime Minister announced that hardware stores, home stores, plant nurseries, and landscaping companies would be allowed to open on certain days as of this week. Mr. DeVoe, who was traveling with his mechanic to get a part for his car, said he was grateful that the Prime Minister allowed auto parts stores to open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. as his car needs servicing.
I'm glad he opened it after a certain time and all of that so people could do one or two things, because we don't know where we're heading with this coronavirus.
Well, I only go now because I got to go get some medicine.
Kwesi Smith, a veterinarian, was heading into work this morning and said that's why he was out of his home. He and other motorists were adorned with masks and said they're doing all they can to stay safe.
Protecting myself, staying away from people as much as possible.
Boy, for everything.
Yeah, just masks, sanitizing.
Social distancing, you know.
The 24-hour curfew was implemented on March 24th to help stave off the spread of the coronavirus. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, long lines outside Workers' House this morning as the hotel union handed out grocery store vouchers to its members. Some angry members called the process disorganized. Berthany McDermott reports.
I kind of strategy to get ahead of you, but that's fine.
Told her I understand you there running in the front, but they step.
That's one and jump right behind.
Yeah, they're the dirty in the back. Everybody's standing on this line.
Tensions mounted at Workers' House this morning as members of the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union showed up by the carloads in hopes of collecting a food store voucher to grocery stores across the island. The line started from the gate at Workers' House, stretching over the hill for as far as the eye can see, with no care for social distancing. These union members expressed outrage over the process.
The process of, distribution should have been executed a little better, man, because you have people jumping in and out, you know what I mean? A lot of people being on chair for a long time, It's ridiculous.
You have to be to work on Thursday to pick up a stipend then too, so they could have just collaborated with the person then and just have this to be and collected just on Thursday. Or some way, somehow, than to make 2 trips. You're coming out today and then you got to come out Thursday.
This could have been organized much better than this. Than have people standing out here this long for a voucher for $100. Every little count. But at the same time, what you got to look at is the union members. We've been in the union for years. I don't think that as a union member that we should have to go through what we're going through.
Union officials and police officers attempted to implement social distancing measures. However, their attempts were unsuccessful.
Hello? Come back. If you touching the next person with your hand, you're too close. Stretch your hand up and tell them go back. They're supposed to be that close to you.
Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union President Darren Wood said he feels things ran smoothly. He explained that the union expected to serve workers from smaller hotels like the Malaya Resort, which includes some 1,050 hotel workers.
Yeah, it's moving pretty smoothly because we've already served quite a bit of a person so far. Because a lot of persons, as you would know, probably came out early to get it out the way. And so everything is moving pretty much smoothly once we got everybody settled down. But even with this, it is still moving pretty much smoother because they're only coming in, being checked, their names are being taken down, and they're being issued and they're leaving.
Now, the union president said the original plan was to use a drive-through method to facilitate this process, but that didn't happen. He says tomorrow they will implement that method to ensure the process moves smoothly. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks, Berthany. Well, Jonathan Ash, the former star prosecution witness in the failed Shane Gibson trial, found himself on the other side of the law today after he sprinted inside court, pleaded guilty to violating the COVID-19 curfew, and was fined $7,000. Jasmine Brown has more.
Ash arrived in court in an unmarked police cruiser. He was dressed in dark blue jeans, a black hat with the word King, and a black Star Wars sweatshirt while also wearing a mask and sunglasses. Flanked by two plainclothes police officers, but unshackled and not wearing any handcuffs, the 35-year-old businessman sprinted into the magistrate's court complex, where he appeared before Magistrate Darren Roll Davis. Ash pleaded guilty to breaching the 24-hour curfew that came into force in March and was implemented by the Minnis administration to stop the spread of COVID-19. He also pleaded guilty to violating the emergency powers COVID-19 regulations by operating a non-essential business. Prosecutors say Ash was found operating a liquor store on April 17th. Ash pleaded guilty to the charges.
While giving a summary of the case, police prosecutor Lakecia Moss said police arrested Ash after they received information about the case and obtained a video that she said showed Ash outside new Made Men liquor store on Faith Avenue.
Moss said the video showed Ash exchanging alcohol for money with customers. Moss said Ash admitted to being the person in the video, but that he was collecting the funds to give to the owner of the bar. Ash also told police that that was his second time at the bar and he had gotten permission from the bar owner. Ash's attorney Tamara Taylor Storr pleaded with the court to go easy on her client as she pointed out the fact that her client pleaded guilty and did not waste the court's time. She also told the court that Ash had a wife and 3 children and no previous criminal record. Magistrate Roll Davis told Ash that while he gave him credit for immediately pleading guilty, his crime was a blatant violation that showed disregard for the law. Roll Davis said Ash could not go unscathed before fining him $2,000 or a 9-month prison term for the first charge and a $5,000 fine or 1 year in prison for the second charge. Ash told the court he would pay the $2,000 fine that day and the $5,000 fine on Friday. Ash is no stranger to court. Last fall, he was the star witness in the failed corruption trial of former PLP cabinet minister Shane Gibson, who was found not guilty of all charges. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
3 chief superintendents of police were promoted to the rank of assistant commissioner today. Loretta Mackey of the Grand Bahama Division, Craig Stubbs of the Road Traffic Division, and Solomon Cash from the Central Detective Unit now serve as ACPs. According to a notice, the Prime Minister, in consultation with the Governor General, made the appointments effective March 30th, 2020. Kirkwood Andrews was promoted from Chief Superintendent to Acting Assistant Commissioner. This comes as Assistant Commissioners Kent Strachan, Clayton Fernander, and Layman Delabo take legal action over reassignments to other government entities. The promotions come 2 years after National Security Minister Marvin Dames said the police force is too top-heavy. Well, a grocery and food delivery service came under fire this weekend after more than a dozen of its customers complained that their credit cards were hacked after doing business with the company. Jared Hicks spoke with the company's local reps.
We definitely are confident that we have no part to play in the breach, and so we are seeking to get it resolved as soon as possible.
Island Direct Nassau's brand manager, Odaz Lightbourne, says that resolution involved launching its own investigation and handing over its findings to the police. However, Lightborn insists that the company's system is ironclad.
I don't want to necessarily paint us as the victim, but I do feel that, it is an unfair allegation that has, its merits. But the problem with doing business online is that there are several points of weakness that is not necessarily the fault of whoever the vendor is.
Complaints poured in from unhappy customers who say unauthorized purchases were made with their cards. One customer said a transaction in euros was made on her card, and the only company she gave that information to was Island Direct. Another customer said he got an alert that a €5 charge was made somewhere in Germany. Later that night, he said a purchase of €1,599 was attempted. Our News spoke to those customers, and they asked for their identities to be withheld. They say they weren't happy with the feedback they got from the foreign-based company, which they insisted spent more time insisting that the matter wasn't their fault.
This situation has been big, and we do take it seriously.
General Manager Dion Verkemp says Island Direct is based in the U.S. Virgin Islands and does a lot of work building online casino games. Kemp says out of their network of thousands of customers in several countries, only a handful of Bahamians were affected. The GM points to the sudden growth in demand for grocery delivery as part of the reason that it is having challenges.
For example, Amazon just hired like 100,000 and has had challenges as well.
But hacking attempts weren't the only transaction issues facing the company. Other customers also complained that their cards were charged multiple times for single transactions. Some had to wait in long bank lines to file complaints with their banks. Lightborn acknowledged those issues and says due to all the challenges, business is closed today. They aim to resume deliveries on Tuesday. Despite the challenges, the brand manager says there is a need for more drivers.
Definitely want this resolved more than anything so that we clear our name and that we could continue to hire more Bahamians, continue to scale the way that we are planning.
Reporting for Our News, I am Jared Higgs.
A new system at the Road Traffic Department took effect today, resulting in no people standing outside on long lines. It's a process the acting controller says has been going extremely well. For the first time, motorists were able to sit in their cars throughout the entire vehicle licensing and inspection process. Unlike this site a few weeks ago where people were forced to stand outside in long lines, this allows for a smoother process of drive up and pay. It starts with a wait around the stadium's parking lot until the vehicle inspection portion, where an employee does the inspection, then takes your document to a nearby table where they are stamped. After that, the line continues in the gate.
You can see we have runners. We have three particular lanes. We have two lanes for private vehicles, one lane for persons only having their driver's license renewed. We have our runners going back and forth, collecting the items, placing them in our Ziploc bags. You see I have one right here, assisting in the operations.
Acting Road Traffic Controller Bradley Sands says the only time a motorist comes out of their vehicle is if they're paying via card and have to enter their PIN. And he said even that will change as the department seeks to get mobile card machines. As for who is being served, until Wednesday, only those who weren't able to license their vehicles in March.
Today, specifically for persons who were left stranded at the end of the March period. By Wednesday of this week, we want to start catering to persons for April. And so, in short order, we should be able to say to the Royal Arms Police Force, there's no need for anybody to be on the road with an unlicensed or uninsured vehicle.
Drone footage shows just how long the line was today, but still a much smoother process. And despite instructions to stay in your vehicle and toe the line, there were some who sought to work around the system and still walk to the gate. However, officials weren't having it.
We're allowing no walk-up customers. You see those two persons by the gate? I don't even know why they're there, because in the announcement it says that there are no walk-up customers.
The department is back to operating from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
I like how it's running. It appears to be running very smoothly.
Still to come, plant nurseries happy to resume business. Plus, crop theft, a growing problem for farmers. Stay tuned. Owners of plant nurseries were happy to resume business today after being added to the list of exempted businesses. Jillian Gray reports.
Plant nurseries were the first businesses from the new additions to the 24-hour curfew exemption list to open today. Previously barred from being opened, nurseries can now operate on Monday and Thursdays from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. While announcing the exemptions yesterday, the Prime Minister encouraged businesses to retain staff as much as possible.
We were working with half staff, and since we were allowed to open back up today, we've allowed most of our staff to come back in to work.
We're trying to maintain as much. We're keeping our core staff, our long standing staff, and no risk, but it's more part-time workers that we had laid off temporarily until the end. But if things stay as the way they are right now, I think that'll be all.
Anthony Thompson of Modernistic Garden and Pet Supply Store said he agrees and is compliant with the Prime Minister's order that all store owners not permit customers to enter without masks. He told our news they provided protective gear to their staff from the very beginning of the pandemic. Stephanie Bethel of Tropical Nursery said they too have provided PPEs and will continue to do so.
If you walk around, all the staff have eye protection on, the face masks, we have hand sanitizers at the cash register, and we've given them gloves, although we don't make them wear the gloves because if they're sanitizing.
Our staff has masks already. We already have boxes for them, as well as some of them wear gloves already because we're planting on site. And then we also have one of our family members are making a mask in case we need extras in case we run out.
Thompson said they've sold out of many of their plant products, and sourcing seeds is a hassle as panic buying in the U.S. has created a shortage. They haven't been able to get permits to bring in new plants and animals, and overall, business has been down. Over at Tropical Nursery, business has been good since opening this morning. They're now trying to reduce foot traffic by offering deliveries and curbside services.
We've seen a demand for vegetables, seeds, and especially soil, because people seem to be wanting to grow more of their foods right now.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, a local farmer says crop theft is a big challenge facing farmers during the global health crisis. Jared Higgs has more.
Whitland Miller should be enjoying the profits from a recent uptick in business. Instead, the owner of Sunset Organic Farms is frustrated by yet another incident of crop theft.
Now that I really need my supplies, they went and they cleaned me out.
When we visited Miller's Unison Road farm, she says the empty patches we see are a result of thieves breaking in and raiding her beets, broccoli, kale, and so much more.
I had the bed of cabbage. They took those out, and as you go, they stole banana just day before yesterday. The worker said there was like a dozen breadfruit on the tree. He gave me 2 yesterday. They took all the breadfruit.
The irritated farmer says the thieves seem to be willing to do anything to get her fruits and vegetables.
We just put these 3 pieces of wood here. So they actually, with this here, a child could have gone through here and they stole some of the tools, the water container and the gas container.
The Auburn University Horticulture Program graduate says thieves have hit her farm about 40 times since she opened it 8 years ago. The losses are painful, especially considering the investment that often goes into any serious agricultural venture.
I spent about $20,000+. The whole land was excavated for curry. I did not know there's a big hole in the front.
Miller says crop theft is a challenge facing many farmers. When asked about beefing up security, she says there are challenges with that too.
You can't control theft. Because if you get a dog, that's money you have to spend because you have to feed the dog. The dog is going to, you got to get shots and everything. If you get a security, you have to pay for that security. That means you have to increase your cost to pay that security. Okay? So everything you implement, you have to pay, you have to put that on your price.
Miller says her best bet right now is installing security cameras. And despite the challenges, the admirer of Asian vegetables says she has a steep passion for what she does. Reporting for our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. Still to come, the PLP leader calls the Prime Minister's latest address a study in confusion. Stay tuned. watching Our News. Welcome back. The opposition leader is calling the Prime Minister's most recent address a study in confusion. He questioned why more businesses were allowed to open amid an increase in coronavirus cases. Georgia Bain reports.
Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis is calling for more clarity with the Prime Minister's communications. According to Davis, he was left feeling confused following Sunday's speech, especially with the Prime Minister's decision to open certain businesses. Davis said that he wants to see a long-term plan detailing how the government plans to move forward in handling the COVID-19 pandemic, instead of weekly speeches that he says only add to the level of confusion and panic in the country.
The object has to be saving lives and stopping the spread of the virus. Nothing that he said yesterday addresses those issues. And I'm concerned that most of the measures that have been announced to date appears always to cause anger, chaos, and panic.
With the announcement that a number of businesses, including hardware stores, plant nurseries, and auto parts stores, will now be allowed to operate, the opposition leader is calling on the Prime Minister to show the facts which guided that decision.
And so far as the economy is concerned, if the businesses that have now been identified to be open could be open now, why could they not have been open from day one with the same measures in place? Because we still don't know the extent of the spread in our community.
During his speech, the Prime Minister made a plea to business owners who are in a strong financial position to hold off on layoffs for as long as possible. He called on business owners to have a heart. Davis said the government should have had that conversation with business owners months ago.
He should have been sitting down with the businesses, talking to them, and getting an understanding of each of their circumstances.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Still to come, how UB is helping student athletes. Stay tuned. And finally, in news tonight, the University of the Bahamas' athletics department looking to help its student athletes during the coronavirus pandemic. Marcellus Hall.
The University of the Bahamas, like other athletic institutions and academic institutions around the world, have all had their normal routines disrupted because of COVID-19. The athletic department, no different, as Kim Roll, the athletic director for the University of the Bahamas, sat down, spoke with us about how they're coping with this new situation. Former women's national basketball team member, now athletic director at the University of the Bahamas, Kim Roll, talked about how COVID-19 has affected student athletes and what her department is doing to help them to cope.
What is at the core of athletics? Competition. And so this is what our student athletes are geared for. This is what they're designed for. They train all year to compete. And so when the competition goes away, that proves to be very challenging. And a lot of them have had difficulty responding to that because they've never been in a situation where they've never been able to compete. And so, as we go through the process, we've been consistently, talking with them, trying to keep them engaged in the process. Our athletic trainers has done a very good job with sending out workout programs and regimens, zooming in workouts, doing the social media competitions among the athletes, just to keep them engaged and to keep their minds occupied and on athletics.
Rose saying that she understands it must be particularly hard for those athletes whose disciplines were either underway or about to begin.
So it's been devastating for a lot of them. particularly persons who are in our track and field program, as they were just getting ready to jumpstart their season, and softball, who was getting ready for preseason. Basketball and soccer were in season. And so, they've had a difficulty adjusting to it because they want to compete. Ultimately, if you're an athlete, you want to compete.
She added that her department has been doing its best to maintain contact with their athletes, but there are challenges.
There has been some limitations. I think we have navigated ourselves through most of those. I was consistently engaged with student athletes, trying to find out what their challenges were, to connect with their professors and find some alternate route as to how they can get their academic work done.
All right, our thanks to Kim Rowe for taking a moment out of her busy schedule to have a moment with us. Reporting for our news, I'm Marcellus Hall. Guess what? The weather is next.
Weather update is brought to you by Generali. Your health means the world to us.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the go with the RevGo Play app. Have a good Monday evening, Bahamas.